I still vividly remember the moment when the world around me seemed to collapse, even though the house was filled with the lively sound of celebratory laughter. It was my father's 65th birthday, Robert Johnson, the man I saw as the last pillar of our family. I'm Claire Johnson, 30 years old, living in Seattle and working in fashion marketing. For years, I've nurtured a dream to open my own boutique, a place to bring bold yet approachable designs to the market. My father was the only one who always believed in me, often encouraging me. "You're not just a great employee, Claire. You deserve to own your dream." That's why I drove back from Seattle that day, carrying a small gift for him, a classic watch engraved with his name on the back. I wanted this birthday to be special, knowing he'd been planning for months, eager for a family reunion. Our suburban Portland home, where I grew up, glowed with lights. Relatives and close friends gathered in droves. The chatter, clinking glasses, and smells of grilled meat and cake created an unusually warm atmosphere. I hugged my Aunt Ellen, my confidant, then greeted my mother, Patricia, and my older sister, Melissa. At first, everything felt perfect. I sat next to Dad during the party, chatting about my work in Seattle. He smiled, his eyes shining with pride. It had been a long time since I'd seen him so at ease. In that moment, I thought that despite our family's tensions, this would be a cherished memory, a fresh start. But life has a way of turning on a single sentence. As everyone raised their glasses to toast Dad's birthday, he leaned toward me. His voice wasn't loud, but it was clear enough to silence the entire table. "Claire, where's the $200,000 I sent you?" The question stabbed through my heart like a knife. I froze, my trembling hand dropping the fork onto my plate with a sharp clatter. I stared at him, confused. $200,000? I'd never received it, never even heard of it. The room fell into a heavy silence. All eyes turned to me. My lips trembled as I stammered, "Dad, I don't understand. What $200,000? In that instant, I noticed my sister Melissa's face drain of color. Her eyes widened, her hands gripping her wine glass as if it might shatter. I knew she was used to lavish trips and designer bags, but I'd never imagined. Dad locked eyes with me, stern, like a judge demanding truth. My mother, Patricia, stared at her lap, twisting her napkin, silent. Aunt Ellen frowned, watching everyone's reactions. Whispers started among relatives. The once warm atmosphere thickened, as if a single spark could ignite chaos. I tried to stay calm, but my heart pounded. I knew Dad was generous. He'd given me $800,000 to start my boutique, a gift I treasured every day. But another $200,000? Never. Trembling, I explained, "I swear, Dad, I only received the $800,000. I've never seen or heard of another $200,000. Just then, Melissa stood, her voice shaky but feigning calm. "Dad, maybe Claire just forgot. She's so busy in Seattle, running her store, juggling everything. Money comes and goes. Who keeps track?" Her words made the room turn suspicious eyes on me. I was stunned. Why was she speaking for me? Why so quick to deflect? Dad cut her off, his voice sharp as a blade. "No, Melissa, I'm asking Claire. No one speaks for her." I caught Melissa's gaze, and in that moment I knew something dark was hidden. Her face twitched, her eyes darted away. My heart tightened. Had she touched that money? Was this why she'd been flaunting new Chanel bags, European trips, luxury purchases? Everything spun. The clink of spoons, sighs, and whispers became invisible daggers. The spacious room felt suffocating, the air thin. Dad tapped the table, silencing the murmurs. His voice was low, cold. "Claire, are you certain you never received $200,000? I met his eyes, tears welling but my voice firm. "I'm certain. If you sent it, someone took it before I knew." My words struck like lightning. The table reeled. Eyes shifted from me to Melissa, then to Mom. Patricia trembled, lips pursed. In that moment, I felt it. The truth hovered above, ready to crash down and shatter everything. I sat there, heart racing, watching Dad, radiant with joy minutes ago, now consumed by anger and disappointment. Mom's shoulders shook, her eyes averted. Melissa's pale face strained to look calm. And me, a daughter dragged into a horrific secret. Dad's 65th birthday, meant to be a perfect memory, became the start of a nightmare. I share this story not just to unburden my pain, but to ask you, the listener, Have you ever been deeply hurt by someone you love most? If so, share in the comments. If not, imagine. What would you do when betrayal comes from within your family? Have you ever seen a room full of people, bright with lights and laughter, fall silent in seconds? I lived that moment, and trust me, it's like an invisible storm sweeping away warmth, leaving a heavy void. Dad's question lingered. Where's the $200,000 I sent you? And I, Claire Johnson, sat frozen, heart pounding. I'd sworn I never received it, but no one seemed to believe me. Dad stared at me, then sighed, his voice slow and heavy. I sent $200,000 to both you and Melissa, on top of the $800,000 for your boutique. I wanted each of you to have something for your dreams. Melissa confirmed she got hers. So you're saying you never saw yours? The room erupted in whispers. I was dizzy. How could I not know about such a sum? I looked at Dad, voice trembling but clear. I swear I didn't receive it. If you sent it, something happened along the way. All eyes turned to Melissa. She sat rigid, face pale, lips tight as if calculating. Then she forced a smile, trying to stay composed. Dad, Claire probably forgot. She's so busy with her store, all those expenses. Money moves fast. Who remembers every transaction? I was floored. Why was she explaining for me? Why wouldn't she meet my eyes? Her defense chilled me. Dad's voice hardened, slamming his hand on the table. The sound echoed, glasses wobbling. Melissa, I didn't ask you. I'm asking Claire. Stop speaking for her. The air froze. Sweat beaded on my palms. Melissa bit her lip, eyes darting, avoiding Dad's gaze. Then a sharp voice cut through, cold as a blade. Robert, Melissa hasn't invested a dime. I've seen her with new Chanel, Louis Vuitton, bragging about Paris last month. I saw her pay a $15,000 jewelry bill. Where do you think that money came from? The room went silent. It was Aunt Ellen, always blunt, never mincing words. Her words hammered down, shattering Melissa's fragile mask. All eyes locked on my sister. She trembled, struggling to stay calm but failing to hide her panic. She stammered, I invested. I bought some stocks, made a profit. That's how I spent. Her voice faded, unconvincing. No one bought it. I looked at Dad, his eyes red, not just with anger but with betrayal. He turned to Mom, Patricia, silent all this time, twisting her napkin. Linda, did you know about this? He demanded. Mom flinched, shoulders shaking. She looked away, then sighed, voice choked. I thought she needed it urgently. I gave Melissa access to the joint account. I trusted she'd change. Pay it back. My heart stung. Mom, the one I hoped would be fair, had enabled this betrayal. She didn't just know, she helped. Dad went still, then stood, his chair scraping loudly in the silent room. His face was stone, his voice icy. Enough. This isn't just family anymore. This is a crime. Before anyone's stunned eyes, he pulled out his phone and dialed, voice clear. Hello? I need to report to the police. My address. Portland, my home. There's a theft in the family, $200,000. No one dared speak. Some relatives slipped out, avoiding involvement. I sat frozen, heart pounding. I'd never seen Dad so cold. Melissa sobbed, grabbing his arm. Dad, please don't. I thought it was mine. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. He yanked his arm free, eyes like ice. You knew it wasn't yours. And Linda, you did too. You both betrayed my trust, betrayed Claire. This family has lost its truth. I felt the world crumble. The mother I loved, the sister I once protected, were now accomplices. Dad, the strong man, bowed his head as if losing something priceless. I didn't cry, but my heart bled. One question echoed, why? The night ended in chaos. Police sirens wailed outside, red and blue lights flashing on tense faces. I looked at Dad, Mom, Melissa, and wondered, could we still call ourselves a family? I share this to show. Sometimes, the deepest pain comes not from strangers, but from those we love. What do you think? If this story grips you, comment Y to hear more. If not, comment N. Can you believe a family can go from a joyful birthday dinner to strangers on opposite sides in just weeks? I never thought I'd witness it until it happened to me. After that horrific birthday night, It unfolded like a crime drama. The police stepped in during the party, taking Melissa and Mom to the station for questioning. Dad, Aunt Ellen, and I sat silently in the waiting room, the sound of police boots on tile like daggers cutting into our family memories. The next day, I was called to give a statement. In the cold interrogation room, under harsh neon lights, the officer read the report. Melissa had withdrawn the entire sum from the joint account, money Dad meant for me, and only $10,000 remained of the $200,000. Hearing that, I froze. Images of Chanel bags, Paris photos, red-soled shoes flashed like knives twisting in my mind. Her luxury was bought with my dream. Tearfully, Melissa confessed she wanted to live the life she deserved. She claimed she'd repay it, believing she'd make money someday. But her words were hollow against the $190,000 gone. Mom, pressed, admitted she'd given Melissa access to the account, thinking she'd use it briefly and replace it before anyone noticed. She choked out that she just wanted to protect her daughter. But in that moment, I saw not a protective mother but a woman who enabled betrayal. Weeks later, the trial began. I sat in the front row, Dad beside me, Mom and Melissa across the courtroom. Melissa was charged with theft, receiving 3 years probation, ordered to repay $200,000, and fined $15,000. Mom got the same probation, jointly liable for restitution. As the verdict was read, I barely recognized them. Melissa, once proud in heels and smug smiles, trembled in a wrinkled gray outfit. Mom, once my gentle role model, hid her shame. I felt no satisfaction, only a cold void. This was my mother, my sister, and they'd betrayed me, Dad, our family. A week later, Dad called me to his study. Papers were neatly stacked on his desk, red seals stark like wounds. He handed me a new will, voice heavy. Claire, I've rewritten everything. The house, investments, all of it, yours. Mom and Melissa are out of the will. I can't let them betray trust again. I held the papers, heart sinking. I should have been glad to be trusted the sole heir. But the joy was hollow, built on the ruins of family. I asked if he was sure, and he replied, eyes red but resolute. Real family doesn't do this to each other. He was right, but my heart tore. I returned to Seattle, starting my boutique with the $800,000 Dad had given me. I leased a prime downtown spot, designed the store, and curated exclusive collections. On opening day, Claire's Choice glowed, friends and colleagues celebrated, and curious customers stopped by. I smiled, shook hands, chatted. Outwardly, I was a successful, strong woman with a bright future. But inside, I felt empty. On what should have been my happiest day, I longed for Mom and Melissa to stand beside me, cutting the ribbon. Their absence was a void. Each night, back in my apartment, I reviewed ledgers and planned, but tears fell. I had everything: money, a store, a future. But I'd lost a complete family. Once, during a rainstorm, I sat in my shop, watching families with kids laughing under umbrellas. I realized I could build the city's finest boutique, inherit millions, but I couldn't buy back broken bonds. That night, I could not sleep. One question haunted me. Where does this family go from here? Dad was aging, I was buried in work. And where were Mom and Melissa? What were they doing? Could we ever sit together again, or were we forever divided? I didn't know the answer, but an unexpected crisis forced us to face each other again, in a life or death moment. If you relate to these struggles and want more stories like mine, check out my previous videos on this channel. Have you ever felt like your life was settling, only for everything to crash in one afternoon? I lived that a year after the family fallout, just as my boutique in Seattle was thriving. I still remember that day. A brief call from the hospital, a few words that choked my heart. Dad, Robert Johnson, was diagnosed with a serious heart condition. Doctors at Oregon University Hospital said he needed urgent surgery or the worst could happen any time. I sat frozen in my office, hands shaking, trying to swallow my sobs as the voice repeated, "Come immediately. We need to discuss the operation." I don't recall driving from Seattle to Portland. Memories flooded. Dad smiling at my store's opening, late night texts of encouragement, his red eyes signing the will to protect me. He was my last anchor. Now, life was threatening to take him. At the hospital, Dad lay in recovery, pale but trying to stay strong. He gripped my hand, voice hoarse. "Don't worry, sweetheart, just a little tired. I'll be fine after surgery." I forced a smile, but tears spilled. I knew he was hiding his fear, as always. He'd been my rock, even as he cracked. Nights at the hospital were sleepless. The beeping machines, antiseptic smell, and Dad's frail form drained me. A haunting thought crept in. If the surgery failed, if I lost him, could I bear it? I realized a bitter truth. I couldn't let Dad go in loneliness while his family still lived. Despite Mom and Melissa's betrayal, despite my anger, they were his blood. Deep down, he likely longed for us to reunite, even in silence. I wrestled with myself for days. I remembered the trial, Mom's evasive eyes, Melissa's late tears. The wounds were fresh, but seeing Dad, tubes in his arms, I knew I had to choose. Hold on to hate, or for him, try forgiveness. One evening in the hospital's dim hallway, I typed, hands shaking, "Dad needs us. Time to put the past aside. If you care, come." I sent it to Mom and Melissa. I sat still, heart pounding, unsure if I'd done right or been foolish. I didn't expect replies. I just knew I'd set aside pride to try mending. That night, I tossed and turned, watching Portland blur in the rain through the window. I was scared but felt a faint hope that in crisis, we might reclaim something lost. The next morning, in the surgery waiting room, I saw two familiar figures. Mom, Patricia, hunched in a chair, eyes red from crying all night. Beside her, Melissa, holding a small bouquet, face haggard, no trace of her usual glamour. They said nothing, just looked at me hesitantly. I didn't know whether to be angry or moved. Dad went into surgery, and we three women waited in silence. No accusations, no defenses, just shared fear of losing him forever. I saw Mom wipe tears, Melissa pray softly, and for the first time in years, I saw we shared one hope: Dad's survival. The weight felt eternal, each minute a blade to the heart. When the surgery door opened, the doctor emerged, sweat on his brow, smiling tiredly. "The surgery was successful. He needs recovery time, but it looks good." I sobbed, collapsing into a chair. Mom wept loudly. Melissa shook, wiping tears. We looked at each other, wordless, but in that moment, I knew resentment had eased. We'd kept the man we loved most. When Dad woke, he held my hand, then Mom's and Melissa's. His voice was weak but clear. "I don't need money. I need my kids to be at peace." I nodded, tears falling. In my heart, I knew this was a new chapter, one where I'd learned to see Mom and Melissa not just through blame but with hope for healing. Leaving the hospital, I knew I'd hit life's biggest turning point. One question loomed: could a miracle mend our deep cracks? We all face moments when our hearts race, breath catches, and we pray the worst doesn't come. I lived that in Oregon University Hospital's waiting room, as the surgery doors closed, swallowing Dad's form. What I didn't expect was seeing them there. Mom, Patricia, eyes red, curled up like a faded shadow, and Melissa, clutching a small bouquet, face worn, far from her usual elegance. No one justified or revisited the past. Just silence, heavy but aching, leaving me speechless. I sat a few chairs away, avoiding their eyes. My heart churned with anger, sorrow, confusion. I'd called them for Dad, but facing them, I wasn't ready. The days awaiting surgery dragged endlessly. We, three women torn by betrayal, took turns caring for one man. At first, awkwardness reigned. I brought Dad water. Mom read her Bible quietly. Melissa stood lost. But slowly, invisible walls cracked. One afternoon, Dad had a slight fever. As I rushed for a nurse, Melissa stepped forward, dampening a cloth and gently wiping his forehead. Her hands shook, eyes red, but her touch was tender. I paused at the door, struck. She didn't know I was watching, and for the first time, I saw not the selfish woman who stole $200,000, but a daughter terrified of losing her father. Mom was the same. She barely left the room, sitting with her worn Bible, lips moving in prayer. Sometimes she'd stop, look at Dad, and cry. I saw her shoulders tremble, regret etched in her wrinkles. I softened. Had I been too stubborn, thinking betrayal erased family forever? Was it time to let love back in, even a sliver? The night before surgery, we sat in the waiting room, the clocks ticking loud. Melissa quietly asked, "Claire, do you hate me so much you'll never want to see me again?" I froze. Her trembling voice carried the weight of someone who'd strayed too far and didn't know how to return. I sighed, replying softly, "You hurt me. But right now, I'm worried about Dad. If you want to fix this, start by being here for him." She nodded, silent. The next morning, surgery began. We held each other in tension, still distant. Mom gripped my hand tightly, her touch warm for the first time in years. I realized, despite mistakes, we shared one fear: losing the man tying us together. The weight stretched like centuries. I paced. Melissa bowed her head. Mom prayed softly. Suddenly I saw. We, three women from different worlds, were bound by one hope. When the surgery door opened, my heart stopped. The doctor's tired smile appeared. "Surgery successful. He needs recovery, but it's promising." I burst into tears, collapsing. Mom sobbed. Melissa wiped tears quickly. We looked at each other, no words needed, but a fragile thread reconnected us. When Dad woke, we stood around his bed. He held our hands, voice faint but firm. "I don't need money. I need my kids together." His words shattered the ice of resentment. I nodded, tears falling, feeling a real family, not perfect but hopeful. Leaving the hospital, I gazed at Portland's starry sky. We hadn't fully forgiven, but we'd found common ground. Love for Dad. The road to healing had begun. Some Christmases are remembered not for twinkling lights or gifts under the tree, but for moments when the heart finds peace. That Christmas was such a milestone for me. After Dad's successful surgery, things changed. Not magically perfect, but slowly, like parched land greeting the first rain. Mom, Patricia, once complicit in betrayal, became the woman who cooked daily, bringing soup and porridge to Dad's house. Each visit, she stayed longer, checking his health, organizing his meds. I saw genuine remorse in her eyes, not courtroom apologies, but quiet, repeated acts of amends. Melissa, my sister, shed her designer dresses. She worked at a small Portland cafe, sometimes taking night shifts to make ends meet. Once, visiting Dad, her hands smelled of roasted coffee, nails chipped. She smiled faintly. "Turns out, earning every dollar teaches you its worth, Claire." It was the first time I saw her humbled. Back in Seattle, my boutique thrived beyond expectation. Claire's Choice appeared in a local fashion magazine, praised as a go-to for independent-style lovers. I threw myself into work, but I'd changed. Success wasn't about proving anything anymore. It was building a life truly mine. Yet, despite my busy life, I returned to Portland most weekends. Seeing Dad in his small garden, sipping tea, his face rosier and smiles brighter, eased my heart. Most importantly, he no longer ate alone. That Christmas, Dad planned a small dinner at home, just four of us: him, Mom, Melissa, and me. I hesitated, fearing awkwardness or old wounds reopening, but I knew if Dad wanted it, I'd try. That evening, Portland was freezing, but the house glowed with warm light. Dad and Mom decorated a simple Christmas tree, red ornaments, some tinsel, but it felt cozy. Melissa arrived early in a plain sweater dress, carrying homemade cookies. I was surprised. She'd never baked before. Dinner started quietly, the clink of cutlery loud in the stillness. But Dad smiled, sharing a story of forgetting my Christmas gift as a kid, making a paper crane for my stocking instead. We laughed, the tension easing. Mom added old stories. Melissa shared high school memories. Slowly, the meal became a fragile bridge drawing us closer. As dinner ended, I stood raising my wine glass. My heart raced, but I needed to speak. Looking at Dad, then Mom and Melissa, I said slowly, firmly, "Money can tear us apart, but love and forgiveness bring us back." The room stilled. Mom cried, hand over her mouth. Melissa's tears fell onto her plate. Dad gripped my hand, eyes shining with pride. In that moment, I felt it. Family isn't perfect, but it's where we return if we hold on to forgiveness. I didn't say all wounds were healed, but we'd chosen to stop their bleeding. After dinner, I stepped onto the porch, watching snowflakes drift onto the roof. I breathed deeply, feeling light. The road ahead was long, likely bumpy, but I'd learned to look forward, not just with my eyes, but with a forgiving heart. Sharing this journey, I realized money, however vast, can't mend heart's wounds. What holds a family isn't wills or wealth, but understanding, forgiveness, and love. I'd faced moments of losing everything: trust in Mom and Melissa, the safety of home. But when Dad faced life or death, we learned the most precious thing isn't bank account numbers, but sitting together, worrying, praying, hoping for a loved one's miracle. My greatest lesson? Hate divides, but forgiveness heals. Sometimes a single open heart lets love's light flood in, letting everything reborn. If this story resonates, leave a comment, like, and subscribe. I believe every story we share is a piece helping us live kinder, more human lives.